we are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, YouTube streaming, and also via Skype. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming from our sutras, from our studios in Trinidad. You are connected to this live streaming from wherever you are. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, the question answer session. It is said Tantra is love technique. Then why modern man and woman have become incapable of love? If Tantra is love technique, then why modern man and woman have become incapable of love? This is the situation of understanding of almost everyone. Love is spontaneous. It cannot be controlled. You cannot make love, which is a very erroneous word to use. You cannot do anything about it. The more you do, the more you will miss it. You have to be available to it when it is happening. You have to allow it to happen. And if something is allowed to happen, then you are not needed for it. Your presence becomes hindrance. When I say your presence, your ego. The more you are absent, the better. When you are not, love happens because of the inability to be absent. Modern man and woman have become incapable of love. Our individualities remain, and that is your presence, and that creates the problem. They are capable of doing things very efficient, automated, robot-like. When you are driving the vehicle, you start the vehicle, then robot takes over everything. Your alertness is not needed. The robot is programmed to work in a particular manner. The moment a situation of danger comes in, robot is not trained for that. Suddenly you feel a jerk in your body and you take charge of the vehicle. So because of this robot-like presence in you, the whole modern mind is incapable of being. It is based in doing. Whatsoever can be done, modern mind can do it very efficiently. Than man has ever existed. Whatsoever can be done very efficiently. Based on this robot in you that does everything automatically, even driving the vehicle. Now we have the vehicles which don't need you as a driver. They are fully automated. You program it and it works. So robot is a kind of a program, is a stage before the automation. Whatsoever can be done, modern mind can do it efficiently. Then any man that has ever existed. Whatsoever can be done, we can do it more efficiently. We are living in a time which is the efficient century. We have turned everything into technology, into a problem how to do it. We have developed one dimension, that is the dimension of doing. But in developing this, the dimension we have lost. In developing that dimension, we have lost much. We have lost the capability of being. At the loss of being, we have learned how to do things. So that which can be done, we do it better than anyone, better than any society that ever existed in the past on earth. But when the question of love comes in, the problem arises, because love cannot be done. It is unseen, but realized truth, it is energy. A problem arises because love cannot be done, and we want everything to be done, so we apply the same criteria to love also. And not only this, with love, we have become incapable of all that can be done. For example, look at the meditation. We have become incapable of it. It cannot be done. Or play. We have become incapable of it. It cannot be done. Of joy, happiness, we have become incapable of them, because joy is a happening, not doing. Happiness is a doing. Meditation is doing. None of these are acts that you can manipulate. On the contrary, you have to let go of you. Then joy happens to you. Then happiness comes to you. Then love enters you deep within. Then love takes possession of you. And because of this possession, the mind is afraid. How something could take over me. Modern mind wants to possess everything rather than being possessed by anything. This mind wants to be the master of everything, and you can only master things, not of happenings. Love is a happening, a spontaneous overflow. You can be the master of a house. You can master a mechanical device, but you cannot master anything which is alive. Life cannot be mastered in any way, because life is not mechanical. You cannot possess it. Driving is a conscious act, but the moment you learn the art of driving, the robot takes possession of you. Collins has used the word robot for the automation. Aurobindo calls it physical mind. Many times your steering automatically moves towards the house. You are not even aware of it. This is the moment driving begins, and you put the, while you are driving in traffic, you have to change the gear like the manual vehicle. You have to keep on changing the gears based on the traffic situation. But when you are on the highway, you put on the drive gear and you don't have to do anything now. The vehicle, so robot takes possession of everything, takes charge of everything. The vehicle continues to move. So life cannot be mastered and it cannot be lived in a robot-like manner. But this is what is happening with all of us. You cannot possess this. On the contrary, you have to be possessed by it. Only then you can connect to life. Love is life. And it is even greater than you. And something which is greater than you cannot possess it. I would like to repeat it. Love is greater than you. Aurobindo in his epic Savitri says, love is greater than you cannot possess it. You can only allow yourself to be possessed by it. It cannot be controlled. Modern ego, modern mind, which is a replica of ego, wants to control everything, and you become scared of whatsoever you cannot control. Then the problem arises. You become afraid, you close the door, you close that dimension completely because fear enters from that door. You will not be in control of it. With love, you cannot control anything. And the whole trend which has led to this century was one of the control, automated process, robot-like living. All over the world and particularly in the West, the trend is how to control nature. Love is your nature. Love is way of life. How to control energies. You cannot, love is an energy overflow. It cannot be controlled. But the mind wants to become the master. And you have become the master, of course, only of those things which are possible to possess. And side by side, you have been developing a sort of incapacity for those things which cannot be possessed. Certain things you have possessed. At the same time, there are things which cannot be possessed. You can possess money, but you cannot possess love. And because of this, we have turned everything into thing. The wife becomes a thing, husband becomes a thing, children become a thing. You even go on turning persons into thing because then you can possess them, you can control them. If you love a person, you are not the master. No one is the master. Two persons love each other, but no one is the master. Neither the lover nor the beloved. Rather, In that situation, love is the master. How it flows between the two. You cannot control it, you cannot possess it. But the moment you try to possess it, the problem arises. Love is the master, and both are possessed by a greater force than it. Love is a greater force, but baser minds have tried to control it. Both are possessed by a greater force than themselves, encircled by a greater force like a whirlwind. They try to possess each other and they miss. In love, you have to flow with it. Rather than you have to allow each one of the spouse to be possessed by love. So when a woman is possessed by love, she moves in a particular manner. When a man is possessed by love, he moves in a different manner. And the process of encircling a whirlwind begins by a greater force. Love has possessed the man and the woman. Both are moving in their own way and moving towards one another, to merge into one another. If they try to possess each other, they will miss it. Then they can possess each other, then the lover will become husband and beloved will become the wife. The moment love enters, we want to make it a thing. We make lover as husband and beloved as wife. Husband and wife can be possessed. Your wife has to behave the way you want. Your husband has to dress the way you want him to be dressed. Then they can possess, but a husband is a thing and wife is a thing. They are no more persons. You can possess them because they are dead things, they are your possessions. Husband is your possession, wife is your possession. They are not alive because there is no freedom. We go on turning persons into things just to possess them. And they feel frustrated, both husband and wife feel frustrated, suffocated, because we wanted to possess the person and the person cannot be possessed. You can possess, when you possess a person, he is no more a person, he becomes dead. And you cannot be fulfilled by something which is dead. Look at these contradictions. You can be fulfilled only by persons, never by things. But your mind desires possessions. So you turn lover and beloved into things, possessions. And then you complain that you are not fulfilled. Frustration sets in. Possessiveness, the attitude to possess, has destroyed the capacity to love. Do not think in terms of possessions. Rather, think in terms of being possessed. What flows between lover and beloved is love. Love is the bond that connects lover and beloved. So love is greater than both lover and beloved. Let love possesses you, when the energy of love possesses you, and you are free to move the way you want, and you have surrendered to it, you are being possessed. That is what surrender means. You are possessed by the energy of love. Being possessed. You allow yourself to be possessed by something which is greater than you. Surrender means you have allowed yourself to be possessed by the Master, by the energy of the Master which is greater than you. He is the peak, you are the valley. And together, this peak and valley can stay together. Then you will not be in control. The greater force, the force which is greater than both of you, which is love, which will take possession of you. Then you cannot decide the direction. Neither you neither the beloved nor the lover can decide the direction of love. Then you cannot choose the goal. Then the future becomes unknown. What will happen? You cannot be secure now, moving with a greater force than yourself. Insecurity comes, and this insecurity becomes fear. If you are afraid and insecure, it is better not to move by the greater force. The love is a greater force that happens between man and a woman. If you are not afraid of being insecure, then and only then you can move. You do not know what will happen. What will happen when you surrender to this greater force, this higher energy, which is peak-like. It is better not to move with greater force than if you are concerned about security. Just work with the lower forces, then you can be the master. And you can decide the goals beforehand. Then you will be able to achieve the goals, but you will not get anything out of it. You have just wasted your life. The secret of love and the secret of prayer and the secret of anything that can make you fulfilled is surrendered. Have you surrendered to love? A greater force between the lover and beloved. The capacity to be surrendered is the capacity to be possessed. Possessed not by the person, by the energy that flows through this person. Master is at the peak of the energy. Energy flows through him. Surrender means you are possessed by the energy that flows through him. And you are the valley, because valley is the only one, the receptivity, the womb-like receptivity that can receive it. The problem with love exists because this capacity is not there. The capacity of being possessed, the capacity to surrender to the higher force. There are other reasons also, but this is the basic reason. The first reason is too much emphasis is on intellect, reason. So man is one-sided, guided by the reason. Your head has grown and your heart has remained absolutely neglected. So reason develops, heart does not develop. It is your heart, it is your feeling, it is not the reasoning, but the entire modern education is based in reasoning, logic, intellect, and mind. In the university campuses, the emphasis is on logic, reason, intellect, and mind. It has no room for developing the heart center. So, for that, meditation is the missing link in education. What used to happen in the universities at Nalanda during the time of Buddha, nearly 2000 years, the focus was on developing the heart, the two centers simultaneously. In the colleges, universities, there is no talk about heart. It is denied. Really, it is just considered as a poetic fiction. It is not. Heart is no more a poetic fiction. It is a reality. Just look at it this way. If from the very beginning child is brought up without any training of the mind or reasoning, without any intellectual training, he will have an intellect. Will he have an intellect? If he is allowed to develop without the mind, reasoning, conditioning, or anything, will he have an intellect? There has been such cases. Sometimes it has happened that wolves were brought up by the human beings. Wolves have brought human child. Many years back, a child was picked up by the wolves and was brought up in the forest in the company of the wolves. The wolves has brought him up. He was 14 years of age. He could not stand on his two legs. He used to walk on his all fours, could not speak a single word. He used to howl like wolves. This child, who was brought up by the wolves, took nearly 6 months to learn the name, and within a year died. He was robust as far as health is concerned when he was caught, more healthy than the human beings ever can be. He was just like an animal, but this training to train him as a human being killed him. Every effort was made so that you could have asked ever, what is your name? He would be able to say his name. And this was his total intellect. After 6 months of rigorous training, which was like a punishment, creating a profit motive in him, the only proof that the child could give of his intellect was this much, that he could say his name. The same has happened to the heart. Without training, it is as if it is not. it has been completely neglected. The university education, I am not saying the intellect should not be developed, the reason should not be developed. The culture of the mind, the culture of the intellect should be subservient to the culture of heart. Not the vice versa should be the case. And the heart has been completely neglected, so your whole energy has been forced to move towards the head, not towards the heart. If the dimension of meditation is introduced in the education, then the two centers will be developed simultaneously. And when two centers are developed simultaneously, then there comes a harmony. You can use either of the two. You can use when the logic is needed. You will use the heart center when it is needed. And love is a functioning of a heart center. It cannot be lived, and no fulfillment comes through when love is lived through the reasoning and logic. This is why modern man has become incapable of love. And the modern man has become incapable of love because heart center is not developed. He is calculated, he calculates. And love is not a calculation. He knows arithmetic of love. He wants to create a mathematics, arithmetic of love, but love is not arithmetic. He thinks in terms of logic, and love is illogical. Or you can say it is beyond logic. When all logics fail, transcend, then love happens. When you transcend, this is what happened exactly with Keshav Chandra Sen. He was one of the beautiful intellect during the time of Ramakrishna, and Ramakrishna was totally illiterate. He came to argue, and a great crowd gathered. It was well known that Ramakrishna could not stand in front of Keshav Chandra Sen or his argument. So Keshav started his logic that God is not this and that, and each time he will give the argument, Ramakrishna will be happy and start dancing. This embarrassed Keshav. He said, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "I am ecstatic. I am happy." And in the end he said, "I am happy. My trust was in God for one reason. Now it has strengthened because such a great intellect, such a great logic cannot exist without the presence of God, without the presence of something which is beyond everything." And Keshav bowed down to him. He said, "You defeated me without defeating. Seeing you," Ramakrishna said, "seeing you, hearing your logics, listening to this, my belief, my trust in God is strengthened." And Keshav bowed down to Ramakrishna, saying that, "Seeing your innocence, I am confident, I am sure. I am feeling the presence of something which is beyond logic." So you think in terms of logic, But love is illogical, or I would better say it is beyond logic, where all the logics, mathematics end, the journey of love begins. He always, the man or modern mind always tries to rationalize everything. Whatsoever he is doing, reason must support it. And love does not support, is not supported by any reason. When logic transcends, reason transcends, you enter into a new realm. And that realm is love. That realm is the realm between master and disciple. Master is the highest peak of logic as well as the peak of love, where love and logic has merged together. Meditation is that confluence where trust, this is what is Sanatan. Sanatan means that which is eternal, which is the confluence of love and logic. And out of that which evolves, it is life eternal, or Sanatan Sanskriti. Life eternal is nothing but the confluence of logic and love. Love is transcendence beyond logic, beyond reason. The journey of love begins when all logic, all reason disappears. And that state, when logic and reason disappears, is the state of innocence. And Jesus said, only one who is childlike can enter the kingdom of God. Child can stand naked in his innocence, and you do not call it obscenity. When a grown-up person stands naked, it is obscenity. Because grown up means grown up in the logic, and when you grow up in logic, all innocence is lost. Innocence is the quality of the heart. The moment a child becomes childlike, the man becomes childlike. So Jesus says, you have to grow. Your education, your training has to be in such a way that the university gives you training in logic, but simultaneously it has to give you the training beyond the logic. And where the moment you reach the state beyond logic, that means logic and love has merged into one another. And at that confluence, life eternal begins. Really, when you fall in love, the reason disappears completely. That is why we use the word fall in love. The man falls in love. Falls from where? Falls from head down to the heart. He falls from the peak to the valley. We use this term for condemnation. Falling in love because the reason cannot look at it without condemning it. It is a fall. Is love really a fall or rising? That you have to see. It is like Vincent van Gogh trying to talk to the skies. It is like the author of Prophet, Khalil Gibran. He talks about the tall cedar trees trying to reach to the sky, to talk to the sky. Love is that effort trying to reach to the pinnacle. Really, is love falling? Is a fall or rise? Do you become more with it, or do you become less? Do you expand in love, or you shrink in love? With love, you become more. Your consciousness is more. Your feeling is more. Your ecstatic sensation is more. Your sensitivity is more. You are more alive than you were before, when you were simply in logic. But one thing is less. The reasoning is less. You cannot reason it out. Why is this happening to you? Your life before and life now are two different things. Earlier it was shrinking, now it is expanding. Expanding in multi dimensions, in many, many dimensions. And the effect of that is you are able to deal better with the people around you, your family, friends, whosoever you meet. You have a better and clarity to deal with them, because something surrounds you. You have a better understanding of the human relations. You can now relate much better, because you do not want to possess anyone. Everything. So you have to see whether you are expanding in love. When love really possessed you, are you expanding in love? Expanding in many dimensions of life? Or you are shrinking? Your life was that of a continuous process of shrinking. And now, the moment you are possessed by a higher force, love, what is happening now? You are expanding into multi dimensions. You can see a new light into your way of relating with children, with husband, with wives, with friends, with workers, with everyone. As far as reason is concerned, it is blind. Love is the only thing that gives you the eyes. It gives you ears to hear that which is. It gives you a freedom. It gives you a totally different way of looking at the things. Hearing the unheard. You are capable of seeing that which cannot be seen through the physical eyes. The heart has its own reason. That is another thing. The heart has its own eyes. The heart has its own way. But that is another thing. The eyes of reason are no more there in the heart. No, reason says it is a fall. So reason says it is a fall. And you have fallen. Reason says that you have fallen in love. You have to look into your life. when you are possessed by love, love for the master or any kind of love. If you have fallen in love with your profession, are you expanding or you are shrinking? But that is a different dimension altogether. Unless the heart center starts functioning again, man will not be capable of love. And the moment heart center begins to operate, you attain to childlike innocence when Jesus says, one who is childlike can enter the kingdom of God. A child standing naked is a beauty, and a man or a woman standing naked is obscenity. Because both man and a woman are living in the state of logic and they have lost their innocence, natural innocence. Mahavir became naked, and that is his innocence. He did not force upon it, it happened. Innocence. Unless heart center starts functioning, mind will not be capable of love. The whole misery of the modern mind, modern life is because unless he loves, he cannot feel any meaning in his life. And the moment you find love growing into your life, you start finding the meaning in life. Life looks meaningless with logic. Love gives a meaning to it. Love is the only meaning. Unless you are capable of love, your life will remain desert, meaningless. You will feel that you are existing without a meaning, futility. Then you will be like to kill yourself, to finish yourself, to end. Because what is the use of existing when there is no life? Mere existing cannot be tolerated. Existence must have a meaning. Otherwise, what is the use of the existence? Why go on prolonging your life unnecessary? Why go on repeating the same pattern of life every day? One husband, one wife. A spouse is converted into a husband and a wife. You have converted them into things, objects. Unfulfillment comes in. You separate, and this process continues. Why go on repeating such patterns every day? Getting out of bed and going to do the same thing and again falling asleep next day and the same pattern. Why? Introspect on it. We'll continue in tomorrow's session. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.